chapter 30. These be the words, Adabari, the book of the law, Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verses 1 through 10. Deuteronomy chapter 30, verses 1 through 10. And the word says, and it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whither Yahweh thy Elohim have driven thee, and shalt return unto Yahweh thy Elohim, and shalt obey his voice, according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children, with all thine heart and with all thy soul, that then Yahweh thy Elohim will turn thy captivity, and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations whither Yahweh thy Elohim hath scattered thee. If any of thine be driven out unto the outmost parts of heaven, from thence will Yahweh thy Elohim gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. And Yahweh thy Elohim will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed, and thou shalt possess it. And he will do thee good and multiply thee above thy fathers. And Yahweh thy Elohim will circumcise thine heart and the heart of thy seed, to love Yahweh thy Elohim with all thine heart and with all thy soul, that thou mayest live. And Yahweh thy Elohim will put all these curses upon thine enemies, and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee. And thou shalt return and obey the voice of Yahweh, and do all his commandments, which I command thee this day. And Yahweh thy Elohim will make thee plenteous in every work of thy hand, in the fruit of thy body, and in the fruit of thy cattle, and in the fruit of thy land for good. For Yahweh will again rejoice over thee for good, as he rejoiced over thy father. If thou shalt hearken unto the voice of Yahweh thy Elohim, to keep his commandments and his statutes, which are written in this book of the law, and if thou turn unto Yahweh thy Elohim with all thy heart and with all thy soul. Praise the Most High Yah. That was the book of the law, Adabayim, chapter 30, verses 1 through 10. Now we turn to Yeshaya, the prophet, otherwise known as Isaiah, the prophet. Yeshaya, chapter 58, Isaiah 58, verses 12, 13, and 14. Isaiah 58, or Yeshaya 58, verses 12, 13, and 14. And his prophecy reads, and they that shall be of thee shall build the old waste places. Thou shalt raise up the foundations of many generations, and thou shalt be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of paths to dwell in. If thou turn away thy foot from the Sabbath, from doing thy pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, the holy of Yahweh honorable, and shall honor him, not doing thine own ways, nor finding thine own pleasure, nor speaking thine own words, then shalt thou delight thyself in Yahweh. And I will cause thee to ride upon the high places of the earth, and feed thee with the heritage of Jacob thy father, for the mouth of Yahweh hath spoken. That was Yeshaya chapter 58, verses 12 through 14. Now we turn to the New Testament. The New Testament in an epistle called Acts of the Apostles. An epistle called Acts of the Apostles, chapter 13, verses 38 to 44. Acts of the Apostles, chapter 13, verses 38 to 44. And the epistle reads, be it known unto you, therefore, men and brethren, that through this man is preached unto you the forgiveness of sin. And by him all that believe are justified from all things from which ye could not be justified by the law of Moses. Beware therefore, lest that come upon you which is spoken of in the prophets. Behold, ye despisers, and wonder and perish. For I work a work in your days, a work which ye shall in no wise believe, though a man declare it unto you. And when the Yahudim were gone out of the synagogue, the Gentiles besought that these words might be preached to them the next Sabbath. Now, when the congregation was broken up, many of the Yahudim and religious proselytes followed Paul and Barnabas, who, speaking to them, persuaded them to continue in the grace of Yahweh. And the next Sabbath day came almost the whole city together to hear the word of Yahweh. That was Acts chapter 13, verses 38 to 44. Now we turn to another epistle, this one written to the Hebrews. The epistle written to the Hebrews, Hebrews chapter 8. Hebrews chapter 8 from verses 6 through 12. The epistle written to the Hebrews, Hebrews chapter 8, verses 6 through 12. And the epistle reads, But now hath he obtained a more excellent ministry, by how much also he is the mediator of a better covenant, which was established upon better promises. For if that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second. For finding fault with them, he saith, Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Yasharal and with the house of Yahudah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Mizraim, because they continued not in my covenant, and I regarded them not, saith Yahweh. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Yasharal after those days, saith Yahweh. I will put my laws into their mind, and write them in their hearts, and I will be to them a Elohim, and they shall be to me a people. And they shall not teach every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, Know Yahweh, for all shall know me, from the least to the greatest. For I will be merciful to their unrighteousness, and their sins and their iniquities will I remember no more. That was the epistle written to the Hebrews, chapter 8, verses 6 through 12. Now we turn to the revelation of the Messiah, the revelation of the Mashiach Yahushua. Revelation chapter 14, verses 6, 7, and 12. Revelation chapter 14, verses 6, 7, and 12. And the prophecy reads, And I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, and to every nation and kindred and tongue and people, saying with a loud voice, Fear Yahweh, and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made heaven and earth, and the sea, and the fountains of waters. Verse 12. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of Yahweh and the faith of Yahushua. That is Revelation chapter 14, verses 6, 7, and 12. We stay in Revelation, and we go to Revelation chapter 11, the revelation of the Messiah, revelation of Yahushua, Mashiach. Revelation chapter 11, we're going to read the seventh trumpet. Revelation chapter 11 from verses 15 to 19. Revelation chapter 11, verses 15 to 19. And this prophecy reads, And the seventh angel sounded, and there were great voices in heaven saying, The kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Elohim and of his Mashiach, and he shall reign forever and ever. And the 24 elders which sat before Yahweh on their seats fell upon their faces and worshipped Yahweh, saying, We give thee thanks, O Yahweh al Shaddai, which art and wast and art to come, because thou hast taken to thee thy great power and hast reigned. And the nations were angry, And thy wrath is come in the time of the dead, that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants the prophets, and to the saints, and them that fear thy name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth. And the temple of Yahweh was opened in heaven, and there was seen in his temple the ark of his covenant. And there were lightnings and voices and thunderings and an earthquake and great hail. Praise the Most High. That was Revelation chapter 11, verses 15 to 19. Last but not least, we finished this morning's scripture readings with the prophet Yeshaya, otherwise known as Isaiah, the last chapter of Yeshaya, chapter 66, verses 22 to 24. Yeshaya 66, verses 22 to 24, and his prophecy reads, For as the new heavens and the new earth, which I will make, shall remain before me, saith Yahweh, so shall your seed and your name remain. And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me, saith Yahweh. And they shall go forth and look upon the carcasses of the men that have transgressed against me. For their worm shall not die, neither shall their fire be quenched, and they shall be an abhorring unto all flesh. Thus ends the morning's readings of the scriptures. Thank you, Sister Josie, for posting the scriptures. Praise the Most High Yahweh. We have been looking at the book of the law. These be the words. These be the words. Adabarim. Chapters by chapters. We've been reading each chapter, and we've been getting a great blessing. Praise the Most High Yah. This is These Be the Words. It's the only book in the Bible that is titled These Be the Words. No coincidence. We're going to read eventually. We're going to get to a place in These Be the Words, in Latin called Deuteronomy, but These Be the Words. We're going to get into a place where we're going to see that the Most High commanded, he commanded that any king in Israel would get a copy of this book, Deuteronomy, and that he should read it all the days of his life, that he should learn to fear the Most High Yah. It was written here. Why? Because this book is extremely important. In this book, there is prophecy, there is history, there is teaching, there is the covenant, there is all the statutes and judgments that are based on the covenant, everything. If you had one book and you needed one book and they only allowed you one of the Bible to have, I would recommend the book of Deuteronomy. It has everything in it. Messiah is in there. Everything's in there. Okay, everything is in there. Prophecies in there. It's all in there. And so we've been studying These Be the Words, this book of the law. It calls itself the book of the law, by the way. We read it this morning in chapter 30. It says, if you do all the things contained in this book of the law, that's verse 10 of chapter 30. We read that this morning. It calls itself the book of the law. So when you see in the Bible, they talk about the book of the law, whenever you hear them talk about the book of the law, they're talking about this book right here. When Josiah sent to the priests and they said, we have found the book of the law, they were talking about this book right here. And it's no coincidence that this book commands it to be read to the kings. Josiah commanded it to be read to him. And when he heard the words of this book, the Bible says he rent his clothes, because he said, great is the wrath of Yahweh upon us, because he read the curses written in the book. This is the book. We have been studying this book. Last week we looked at chapter 15, and the book taught us, you see, these are the statutes and judgments. It taught us about how to deal with the poor. This is the thing, brothers and sisters, I want to explain a bit. We live in Babylon. There's no question, brothers and sisters, we live in modern Babylon. You can even call it modern Egypt if you want. But this is what this is the thing. We live in Babylon, okay? And this book of the law was written not only for us to abide in, but is also written for us when we get into the land promised to us. You see, our fathers were in the land promised to us. They were there and they ruined it. They messed up bad. And it wasn't just 1 or 2 years or 1 or 2 decades or even 1 or 2 centuries. It was more than 1,000 years they were in the land. More than 1,000 years they were in the land. They messed up bad, messed up real bad. They started worshiping other gods. They started offering their children to fire. They started acting like all the nations that the Most High had displaced from before them. They started becoming just like them, and they culminated their sin. They culminated their sin in their rejection of Mashiach Yahushua. They rejected it. It was our fathers that did that. Our fathers did that. And we have to remember that. Don't get puffed up, because remember, it was our fathers that rejected Messiah. And it was our fathers that said, us and on our children. Remember that, brothers and sisters, and don't forget it. It will keep you humble, because in spite of all of that, the Most High promises in his word to bring us back to the land, to get us and gather us again together in these last days. He promises us that. And we know that what he promises, he will fulfill. We know that. We know that. And we praise his name for his mercy and grace. And so I bring all that up to say what we're going to study today, the principles of righteousness we're going to study today in this part of chapter 15. The principle is, one of the principles is found in the book of wisdom, a book of wisdom called Proverbs. Proverbs of brothers and sisters. Proverbs is a powerful book of wisdom. If you want to get wisdom, the Bible says, get wisdom, get understanding, buy the truth and sell it not. Read this book. Read it. It's powerful, man. Powerful. Everything we need is in the Bible. If men were to just study the scriptures, man, we'd be all right, you see. But they start getting caught up in all these other things and all these other books and all these other philosophies, and they get thrown off. Men get all thrown off. But if you just stick with the scriptures, people will call you all kinds of names for sticking with the scriptures. Believe me, they've done it to me. They'll do it to you. They did it to the prophets before. Don't worry about that. But if you stick with the scriptures, you're going to make it through. You're going to make it through all the way, brothers and sisters. There's no question about it if you stick with the scriptures. People look at you like you're crazy. They'll, like I said, they'll make fun of you. They'll separate from you. They'll even begin to try to kill you at some point. That's Revelation chapter 13. They'll want to kill you. There's no question about that either. But that's okay. We will make it through. We'll make it through. Just as the prophets, our prophets, that the Most High called up from among us, among the Israelites, just as they made it through, we will make it through. Praise the Most High. And even more so. But in the book of Proverbs, I want to show you one of the tidbits of wisdom that Proverbs shows us. And as we usually do, we try to read a little context. Proverbs is a little different, that each verse contains nuggets of wisdom that you can just grab and run with. But I don't like to read just one verse if I don't have to, because I like to get a little context, just as habit. Too many people read one verse and then start whole churches, whole denominations, whole religions just based on one verse. And they usually misrepresent the verse. We don't want to do that. So let's look at Proverbs chapter 3. We're going to focus on verse 31, but I want to actually read from verse 29 to verse 31, and I mean to verse 35, from verse 29 all the way to verse 35. But verse 31 is what we're talking about today. Okay? Notice what it says. Devise not evil against thy neighbor, seeing he dwelleth securely by thee. Strive not with a man without cause, if he have done thee no harm. Envy thou not the oppressor. Watch this now. And choose none of his ways. We're going to go into that today. For the froward is abomination to Yahweh, but his secret is with the righteous. The curse of Yahweh is in the house of the wicked, but he blesseth the habitation of the just. Surely he scorneth the scorners, but he giveth grace to the lowly. The wise shall inherit glory, but shame shall be the promotion of fools. Praise the Most High for his word. Brothers and sisters, let me tell you something. We live in Babylon. And in the earth that we live in, men gain things by stepping on other men. That's just how it works. Okay? There are winners and losers. That's what we're taught, isn't it? In the economy in which we live, in the situation in which we live, on the earth in which we live, there are winners and losers. Winners and losers. So in order for somebody to win, somebody else somewhere has got to lose. Right? That's the way it works. In order, when somebody loses, somebody takes advantage and wins. I'll give you an example. I lost 2 houses to foreclosure. 2. I'm not proud of that, but real is real, right? And when I was losing my houses to foreclosure, each one, people were rolling up into the driveway. Who are these people rolling up into the driveway? Before I lost the house, investors. They were just like vultures. They were waiting for me to lose my house so that they can come in and scoop it up real cheap. You see, winners and losers. I was losing my house and somebody wanted to gain. There it is. That's how it works, brothers and sisters. That's how this economy works. That's how this world operates. But in the earth made new, in the kingdom of Yahweh, that is going to be headed by Yahweh Shai Mashiach, in that kingdom of righteousness, there'll be no winners and losers. There are going to be only winners. You understand? There will be only winners in his kingdom. In his kingdom, there's no losers. Everybody prospers in his kingdom. You understand? Everybody does. Right? So I bring that out to say that the kingdom of Yah is different from the earth in which we live in now. Okay? And so if that's the case, we can understand that the principles of the kingdom of righteousness are completely different from the principles in the world in which we live in now. There may be some similarities, but don't get it twisted. It's completely different. Okay? Completely different. So as Israelites, when we live on this earth by the word, we're going to be different from the other people. Just simply by living by the word, you're going to be different from the other people. You understand? You don't have to try. All you have to do is obey, and you're going to be different. Okay? It's just how it is. Because this earth of aggressive want for gain and fame, this earth of power and money and politics, this earth of winners and losers, there are principles that are anathema, completely opposite, completely abominable to the Most High Yah. Okay? And so if you're going to be an Israelite on this earth, there are going to be ways and things that's going to be at odds with the world in which we live. That's just how it is. And we just read in the scriptures, we just read in the Proverbs, it just told us in the book of wisdom that he giveth grace to the lowly. Why would he say that? He giveth grace to the lowly. That's, people look at the Sermon on the Mount from Messiah, and they think he said some new stuff on that mountain that day in Matthew. They say, oh, this is the most greatest sermon ever preached. Well, probably it was, but he didn't say nothing new. Is already written in the law and the prophets. It's already there. He didn't say nothing new. It's just that people had gotten so caught up in this earth's way of doing things, in Babylon's way of doing things, that the stuff sounded new to them. It sounded new. But he said he scorneth the scorners, he give grace to the lowly. That means he's with the person that's humble. Envy thou not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways. Wait a minute now. Hold on. Let's we got to talk about this for a minute. We're gonna get ready to get into Deuteronomy 15. I want to make sure we get this backdrop before we get into it, okay? Envy thou not the oppressor. Now listen here. And I want y'all know, right? I mean, those who have been listening to the sermons, the Most High, and the messages the Most High has given me, I'm not trying to hate on anybody. Really, I'm just not trying to hate on anybody. I'm simply trying to tell the truth as the truth is, right? Y'all understand that? I just want to make sure y'all hear me, right? I'm not trying to hate on anybody. Really, I'm not. I'm just trying to tell the truth. And sometimes in telling the truth, I step on toes. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to tell the truth. And sometimes the Most High has to give us a little pain in order for us, to see what we really are, right? I mean, that's just how it is. So when I say certain things, I'm not trying to break on you individually and or any individual. I'm just trying to tell the truth. And the thing is, really, really and truly, no matter where you are on this earth, no matter who you are, you still got to come the same path of repentance to get to Yah. You still got to come the same path of repentance. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're bloodline to Abraham. I don't care if you are a son of Yafet, of the tribes of the Anglo-Saxons and the Caucasians. It don't matter. You still got to come through humble repentance to the Most High Yah of Israel. You still have to, no matter where you come from. Okay? But with that being said, I think we can, if we honestly look at the earth and we see the way things are on this earth, the rich and powerful rule over the majority of the earth. Am I making that up, or is that an observation that everybody can agree with? The rich and powerful rule over the peoples of planet Earth. Is that true or not? Is that true or not? Right? I think we can agree with that. And the rich and powerful got where they are by oppression, by overcoming, killing, raping, pillaging, taking. Isn't that true or not? Is that the correct thing, or is it not? I mean, did not the people come here from Europe and they came here and they smiled in the face? The Indians called them pale faces, and they smiled in the Indians' faces and then proceeded to completely annihilate them and take their land. And we even see it today. They took this land out there in the Dakotas. Remember that? They took the Indians' land and they said, oh, we're not going to hurt the land. But this is for America. We got to drill this oil, baby. And then we saw the other day they spilt that oil all over them brothers' holy land, did they not? They spilt that oil all over it. Yeah, man. That's what happened. And we see this repeated. It's not like this is no unique phenomenon. We see this all over the earth. This has gone back for several hundred years, ever since the rise of the Greeks, actually. It's been happening. But even before that, with Nimrod and the Babylonians, they did the same things. So the Hamites did the same thing, right? So the Babylonians did that. Nimrod and them did the same thing, and then he confused the language. And then here come the sons of Yafet, and the Bible says the Yafet shall dwell in the tents of Shem. And if you look that up in the Hebrew, you will find what it means is Yafet going to try to take Shem's place. And of course, Ezekiel 38 backs that up. We know that. We went through that. We studied it. Y'all didn't you see that? Just go ahead and study it. You see, when it says Yafet shall dwell in the tents of Shem, he's trying to say Yafet going to try to take Shem's place. And we see that. And of course, Deuteronomy told us, Ezekiel also told us that they come from the north and they're going to kick you out the land. They're going to take over. What happened, right? That's exactly what happened. See, so we not understand, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to say all people of Caucasian are evil. I'm not trying to say all people of Anglo-Saxon are evil. What I am, in fact, let me tell you plainly, we talked about this just maybe a week or so ago. Caucasians and Anglo-Saxons and Japanese and Chinese and all these people are going to end up, they're going to be people coming from among them that's going to be in the kingdom as well. And that's partially the point today. The Bible tells us, envy thou not the oppressor. So if you are out here as an Israelite and you see that the oppressor has raped and pillaged and done, don't you look to do the same thing to them, because then you be just like them. You understand? You be just like them. An object is not to be like them. See, that's why I really am a bit annoyed when I see people of color telling other people of color how to get rich in Babylon's system. Their people mean well. When they said, this is how you're going to get rich. This is how we as a people need to get rich. Listen here, brothers and sisters. The dollar bill is the most powerful instrument, monetary instrument on planet Earth today. It still is, even with the euro, even with all that stuff. The US dollar bill is the most powerful monetary instrument. And what does it say on it? Federal Reserve note. Now let me ask you a question, brothers and sisters. Do Hebrew Israelites have anything to do with the Federal Reserve note? Is that what we need to prosper? Huh? Come on now. Wake up. Getting caught up in Babylon's system. See, envy thou not to the oppressor, and choose none of his ways. We are called to righteousness, man. We are called to righteousness, and not just any righteousness, brothers and sisters. We are called to Yahweh's righteousness, which is perfect righteousness, which is righteousness that's like gold, brothers and sisters. Even more, the purest of pure gold. That standard. And there's nothing in Babylon that can ascribe or approach that. Nothing. So let's not look like them. Now, that's not excusing the oppressor. Quite the contrary. We know, we read the scriptures. The oppressor gonna get what he got coming. All the curses that came on the Israelites gonna be double on the oppressor. He gonna get what he got coming. There's no question. All the unrepentant repressions of the sons of Japhet, boy, they got some stuff. Boy, let me tell you something, man. It's coming. It's coming. We ain't got to be like them, though. Okay? Matter of fact, we are called not to be. And so I say to all the children of the descendants of Anglo-Saxons and the descendants of Europeans and descendants of Caucasians that have come to this truth, you are called, you are specially called because you're escaping a lot of stuff, man. Let me tell you something. You're escaping a lot of stuff, man, because your father's going to catch hell. They get ready to get it, man. I'm just telling you how it is. They're getting ready to catch it. And so praise the Most High. I mean, really, I praise the Most High because the people that are receiving the truth now, the Bible says, you know, when you convert a sinner from the error of his ways, James tells us, you hide a multitude of sin. And that's for everybody, isn't it? Right? Hide a multitude of sin. So here in Deuteronomy 15, we have been studying how to handle the poor. Now we deal with the poor differently than Babylon does. Babylon say, all you poor people are poor because you are lazy. Isn't that what they say? Huh? You are poor because you are lazy. Hey, wait. Let me tell you something, man. Let me tell you something. That is not new. You think that's new? That's not new. You know what the Bible says, right? There's no new thing under the sun. Isn't that what it teaches? Ain't no new thing. We say, what? Well, you think something new? It's been done already. It's been done already. You think something new somebody said? It's been said already, man. You late, man. It's been said already. Okay? It's been said already. Let me show you where that was said in the Bible. All you people that are poor, you poor because you lazy. And you know, we're going to cut your wealth. We're going to cut it so that you can go to work. You need to just go out there and work. Isn't that what they tell you? Right? And then you go out there and you try to get a job at $7.25 an hour and see what kind of rent you're going to pay, right? See what kind of rent you're going to pay somewhere. Shoot. Right? And if you need a job and you get a job and you don't live in New York somewhere, and if you do live in New York, boy, you better be holed up in some tenement with like 10 other people to be able to afford to live there, number one. And then you can get to work. And if you live outside of a place like New York where there's hardly no public transportation, well, you need a car, right? You need a car to get to work. You try to get a car and you try to get to work and pay your rent. And if you got kids, and try to do that with $7.25 an hour and see where it gets you. Huh? But you lazy, right? That's what they tell you. You lazy. That's why you just lazy. That's why you in your situation. You just lazy. We ain't gonna give you nothing. That's the way Babylon operates. But that ain't new. Let me show you that. Exodus chapter 5. Exodus chapter 5. Exodus 5. Let us read Exodus chapter 5 from verse 1. From verse 1 down to verse 8. Actually, yeah, from 1 down to verse 9. Watch this. Watch carefully. And afterward, Moses and Aaron went in and told Pharaoh, thus saith Yahweh, most high of Yashar'ah, let my people go, that they may hold a feast unto me in the wilderness. And Pharaoh said, who is Yahweh, that I should obey his voice and let Yashar'ah go? I know not Yahweh, neither will I let Yashar'ah go. And they said, the Elohim of the Hebrews hath met with us. Let us go, we pray thee, 3 days' journey into the desert, and sacrifice unto Yahweh our Elohim, lest he fall upon us with pestilence or with the sword. And the king of Egypt said unto them, wherefore do ye, Moses and Aaron, let the people from their works get you unto your burdens? And Pharaoh said, behold, the people of the land, and ye make them rest from their burdens. And Pharaoh commanded the same day the taskmasters of the people and their officers, saying, ye shall no more give the people straw to make brick, as heretofore. Let them go and gather straw for themselves, and the tale of the bricks which they did make heretofore, ye shall lay upon them. Ye shall not diminish aught thereof, for they be idle. Therefore they cry, saying, let us go and sacrifice unto our Elohim. Let there more work be laid upon the men, that they may labor therein, and let them not regard vain words. Y'all lazy. You talking about worshiping on Sabbath? See what happened? That when you read Ezekiel chapter 20, you'll understand what's going on here. What went on is they had stopped keeping the Shabbat. Happens while they were in there. And so when Moses and Aaron came back, Moses told them, you need to keep the Sabbath again. You need to stop acting like you Egyptians. You called to be Israelites. Stop breaking the Sabbath. So they started keeping the Sabbath. That's why Pharaoh said, why you make the people to rest? You making them lazy. And I need them bricks to be made, brother. So y'all better go out there now, since you're so lazy, since you got all this time to keep Shabbat, you need to go out there and get them own straw. Y'all getting lazy. See? You think this stuff that these people in the politics talking about the poor lazy, and that's why they don't get anywhere, and they just dumb, and they don't want no education, and that's why we need to cut their food stamps, we need to cut their benefits, we need to cut their Social Security, we need to cut their Medicaid. That's why they say all that. You think that's not new? It's been done, man. Hey, wait, hold on. You see what happened to Pharaoh in Egypt? You see what ended up happening, right? Well, you know, if you read the whole story in Exodus, you know what happened, right? Yeah. Well, see, now we know what's coming, right? We know what's coming, okay? It ain't changed. It's gonna come back again, okay? It ain't changed. So now, but you know, as Israelites, we don't treat the poor like that. We don't treat the poor like that, okay? We just don't. Because the Most High teaches us differently. We studied it last week. Now we're going to continue here. Deuteronomy chapter 15. Deuteronomy 15. You see, brothers and sisters, the blessing, the Most High blesses us as we bless the poor. Really, that's one of the blessings. We're going to read it right here. He blesses you as you bless the poor. He will bless you. He will take care of you because he considers the poor himself. When you give something to somebody that can't afford stuff and you help them, he's considering that you helping him. That's how he does it. And he will bless you for that. Okay. Now the earth don't think that. You know, I got mine, you get yours. I got mine, you get yours. I got mine, you get yours. That's how the earth thinks. That's how Babylon teaches us to think. But when you Israelites and you study his word, he's going to teach you different. Okay. I'm not saying you just give money to lazy people. We talked about this last week. We're not talking about that. But we talk about people that's trying, and they just in a bad way. Or the woman got a whole bunch of kids she trying to take care of. She driving broken down cars. She can't afford to pay for a tire when it blow out. You know what I'm talking about. People need help like that. Right? Deuteronomy chapter 15 from verse 11 down to verse 15. Okay, watch this. Watch this. For the poor shall never cease out of the land. Therefore I command thee, saying, thou shalt open thine hand wide unto thy brother, to thy poor, to thy needy in thy land. And if thy brother, an Hebrew man or an Hebrew woman, be sold unto thee and serve thee 6 years, then in the 7th year thou shalt let him go free from thee. And when thou sendest him out free from thee, thou shalt not let him go away empty, but thou shalt furnish him liberally out of thy flock, and out of thy floor, and out of thy winepress, of that wherewith Yahweh thy Elohim hath blessed thee, thou shalt give unto him. And thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondman in the land of Egypt, and Yahweh thy Elohim redeemed thee. Therefore I command thee this thing today. He said, remember you was a slave. Remember when you was a slave. And don't treat the people as you were treated when you was a slave. Hmm? He said a Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman. Now today that'd be brothers and sisters in the truth, right? But see, but that doesn't mean, you know, you just because somebody not in the truth, you mistreat them, right? Okay. But when you see a Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman and they poor, and let me tell you something. Most of the people that are the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, are there not a large percentage of them that represent poor, working poor? Is it not true? It is true. Yeah, right. It is true. Right? But that's not the only thing. I mean, there's a lot of poor people, period. I mean, in the United States of America, right? If you was to look up the United States of America, there's probably like 330, 340 million people in the United States of America. Okay? Probably 340, 330 million. That's a lot of people. Okay? That's a lot of people. Now, about 12, 13% of them, or about 40 million people, are the so-called African Americans. So-called African Americans. Okay, so-called. And that's not even including the Hispanic people, who are probably the same 40 million. Okay. So you have Hispanic and so-called African American, which I think are the same myself. That's just me. I know people try to exclude Hispanics as if they different from African Americans, but when you look at the history, we all come from the same place. But that's another thing. But so you're talking about 80 million. So there's probably about 260 million Caucasian people in the United States. About 260 million. Okay, now I'm throwing some numbers at you. Okay, I'm throwing some numbers at you. Okay, but just check this out for a second. Generally speaking, of Hispanic, but especially so-called African American, generally speaking, there's about 20% of the population of them that live at or below the legal poverty line, which today is about $32,000 for a household. There's at least 30. There's probably at least 32%. So you take 20% of the Hispanic and the so-called African American that live at or below the poverty line. Okay, so you take 80 million and you take 20%. That's 16 million people. That's a lot of people. Okay, that's a lot of people. That's 20% of their population. That's 1/5 of their population. But of the Caucasians, okay, the 260 million Caucasian, there's probably 10% of them or less, let's say 10% of them that live at or below the poverty line. 10%. Now, 10% of them, though, is 26 million. You understand? So in pure numbers, there's more Caucasian and Anglo-Saxon poor people than there are so-called African American and so-called Hispanic poor people, just in pure numbers. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, there's going to be more of them simply because there's more of them. You understand? There's more of them in the land. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? So there'll be 26 million poor of them, and there'll be 16 million poor of us. I mean, that's just how it is, right? So, but as a percentage of people, there's more, so-called African Americans and Hispanic. As a percentage of their people, there's more of them that are poor than there of the Caucasian. But there's just in pure numbers, you're gonna see more. So when you're talking about poor, you're talking about poor, period. And you could always find them, most of them, right, in the same areas. They always living where they can afford places, and that's gonna be the cheapest areas to live, right? And generally, generally speaking, the public works don't reach them. Right? So they places usually dirtier. They places usually more run down. Generally speaking, the exotic drugs do reach them. So they get the heroin and they get the cocaine and marijuana. That find their way there, and it gets lots more. They give lots more licenses to liquor stores to operate there. Right? So you'll find there's more crime there. It's cheaper to live there, but they got no choice because they can't afford. You see how this is how it does, brothers and sisters. See, it used to be they would just say white only and no color. They used to say that, right? They used to say white only. There used to be signs. There used to be signs, white only, no color. They used to say that. Okay. But they took away the signs. And somebody said, well, they took away the signs. I can walk into any store I want. Yes, you can. You can walk into any store you want and you can spend money. And they don't mind you spending your money on these stores now. But they do mind you living with them. They do mind you living. They don't want you to live with them. Okay? And how do they stop you from living with them? Okay, I'll give you an example. Let me tell you, this is what I'm about to describe to you has taken place. I'm going to show you Washington, D.C., but it has taken place in every major city in the United States of America. Okay, so in Washington, D.C., you had an area of Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is divided into 4 areas. You have Northeast, Northwest, Southeast, and Southwest. That's how Washington, D.C., anybody that knows D.C., I know I'm telling the truth, is divided into 4 areas. It used to be that except, for like Georgetown, okay, a lot of Washington, D.C. was poor. To U Street in Washington, D.C. back in the day, and you could buy a townhouse for like $20,000, $10,000 or less. Why? Why is that? Because all the crack was there. Crack epidemic was heavy there. Heroin was there, and it was heavy. I mean, people describe, I used to work on U Street. People describe U Street in Washington, D.C. like you couldn't even drive your car down there because there was so much dealing going on between dealers and purchasers. Now, today, you see nothing like that. Why is that? Because all the property got real cheap. And what they did, and I had a federal prosecutor tell me this. So, I mean, and he didn't know, he thought he was telling me that he was some hero. He didn't tell me, he didn't show me, he didn't understand I was looking at him as the sellout that he was. But notice, this is what he told me. He said, you see this street? Because I worked in the bank and he was my customer. He said, you see this street? He said, this street used to be so filled with drug addicts. I said, well, how did it get cleaned up? He said, we got a mandate from the Congress, and we were locking everybody up for long prison sentences. And we were just rolling down this street, and we were just picking them up. Now, these are mostly black people, or so-called black men, right? And we were just picking them up and putting them away 10, 15, 20 years. And we just kept doing it. And then whenever the buildings were under code, we'd find the owners of the buildings, or take the building from them. Now, I told you, this happened in every major city in the United States. So listen carefully now. Now, once they were all in jail and all the buildings was cleaned up, then more respectable people started moving in again. And they started buying the building. Well, he's talking about more respectable people. Anglo-Saxons with money. That's what he's talking about. Okay. Now, today, that same area, that townhouse, that row house you used to be able to buy for $20,000, that same place, you can't buy it for less than $700,000 now. 700 a row house. Some of them, well, over $1 million. I'm not exaggerating. Ask people from DC. They tell you I'm telling you the truth. Okay. And so now a person that wants to go there, you're gonna have to spend $2,000 a month to live there. So now certain people can't afford to live there. Well, what happened to all the poor people that live there? And people will tell you this, they live out in Maryland now. They went to Southeast DC, which is the last area now poor. They're gonna take that too. But they got Southeast DC, but they went into Maryland, out to Capitol Heights, Maryland. They went out to Prince George County, Maryland, and now Prince George County, Maryland looks the way them neighborhoods used to look. It's the hood. How they do it. They did it in Washington, D.C. They did it in New York. They did it in Philadelphia. They did it in Boston. They did it in Chicago. They did it in Atlanta. They did it in Miami. They did it in L.A., all them cities. Okay? That's how they do it. So wait a minute. How did the drugs get into the neighborhood in the first place? How did the drugs get flooded in there in the first place so that it became like a crack den, one big crack den? How did that happen? How does heroin come from the Middle East all the way to Washington, D.C.? I mean, they could tell you if Osama bin Laden in a cave somewhere in Afghanistan with a laptop getting ready to attack the United States. You tell me they can't tell you when tons of heroin coming in up in this piece? They don't know nothing about it. How it just happens to come into these poor neighborhoods where they can't even live minimum wage? Be real. So That's how Babylon operates. Babylon operates. Don't operate like that. We are Israelites, and we remember our fathers were slaves. A slavery situation right now, but it's okay. Our goal, brothers and sisters, remember, is to live righteousness. Is to live righteousness, because this world is not going to last. It's not. Signs of it, you can see the signs of it all around you. You know it's not going to last much longer. So we're seeking to be sealed in the spirit of the Most High's righteousness. You see, the men on this earth, they think because they think they're getting away with something. That's what happened. They think they're getting away with something. And they think because the Most High is quiet right now that, you know, oh man, he don't even exist. Ain't no God out there. Let me tell you something. Don't worry about that. The Most High has got his spirit, and he's working with his people. The only game in town right now is the sealing of the 144,000. That's the only thing he's concerned about right now. And he's getting ready to finish that sealing. And when they are finished, it's on. Don't do like them. Don't act like them. Don't be like them. Okay? Don't be like them. He said, now, of course, we don't own slaves today, Hebrews, we don't own slaves, but the principle is the same. You remember you was a slave. Don't treat people unfairly because you were treated unfairly. You remember your fathers was slaves, man. So you don't treat people unfairly because you was treated unfairly. You understand? People that do evil got what they got coming. They got what they got coming. We don't have to worry about retribution. He said, vengeance is mine. I will repay. All he's looking, you see, and when we read Deuteronomy 30, I want you to look at this now. Let's watch this now. Deuteronomy 30, which you read this morning. Notice what he said. Deuteronomy 30, we read this morning. Notice from verse 1, read from verse 1 down to verse 3. Watch this now. Watch that. And it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, for thee, and thou shalt watch this, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations where the Yahweh thy Elohim have driven thee, and shalt return unto Yahweh thy Elohim, and shalt obey his voice, according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children, with all thy heart, with all thy soul, that then Yahweh thy Elohim will turn thy captivity. Now wait, did he say you're going to march in the streets? Get rich in Babylon, that's how you're going to turn the captivity? Did he say we need you to pile up gold in Egypt, that's how you're going to get the captivity? What? Notice what he said. He said if you return and obey. Argument, our fight is not with corrupt governments and politicians. It's not. Our way out is not trying to get rich in Babylon. Our way out is to return and obey the voice of Yahweh. Huh? Our way out is to return and obey the voice of Yahweh. Right? Call to mind how we got here. We was enslaved because our fathers broke the covenant of Yah. We were involved with rejection of Messiah. We broke the covenant of Yah, and we started following Egypt and Babylon. That's why we got put in slavery. Our fathers got put in slavery in Egypt for the same reason. So we know all about that. But let us know the way out. The way out is not worried about trying to follow Babylon. The way out is through the covenant of Yah. It's going back to him. It's receiving his spirit of righteousness and holiness. That's our way out. You got me? So we're not going to treat poor people the way Babylon treats poor people. Don't have the same attitude that these so-called politicians have, that they ripping people off, trying to get rich off the backs of people, trying to rip people. See, that's the whole, that's why I say to you, there's no such thing as a white person. See, the Anglo-Saxon invented the word white to get poor Anglo-Saxons to fight against poor people of color, because before they were getting ready to work together, and he was afraid of a revolution. That's what he was afraid of. And so what he did is he got the poor so-called white people to hate the poor so-called black people, and he had them fighting each other. That's what happened. Okay, Now, I'm not concerned with no revolution. That's the concern of Babylon. That's the concern of Egypt. I'm not concerned with that because I know Abba is getting ready to turn the whole world upside down. So we don't have to worry about that. What we're concerned with is the righteousness of Yah. We're concerned with reflecting his image, with bringing glory to his name. Let me say that again. We're concerned with bringing glory to his name by how we live in this world. Amen. That's what we're trying to do. So he said, you know, furnish the poor liberally when the Most High blesses you. And he's going to bless you some more. See, don't start writing checks to these corrupt Christian churches. That ain't the poor. And they ain't going to give all that money to no poor people. No, you know better than that. You know better than that. If you got a check to write, I'm sure you can find a single mother somewhere trying to support some kids that could use that money. Am I lying or not? Am I lying or not? I'm sure you know a single mother somewhere that could use that money. That got some heads to feed and got more monthly money, right? I'm sure you can find a senior citizen somewhere that's living so short, they got to go to a food pantry at the end of the month because they ain't got enough money. They ain't got enough money to cover the month. I'm sure you can find that. If you ever have any extras, because most of us are poor, right? So if you got something to give, there's better places than somebody's plate at somebody's church. That's right. There's lots of things you could do. And you ain't got to, and the blessing, you know what the great blessing is about it? You ain't got to tell nobody about it. See, the Bible says don't let the right hand know what the left hand is doing, or let the left hand know what the right hand is doing. Do it in secret. You know, you just go and do it. Don't say nothing, just do it. And you know what? The Most High sees it, and he's going to bless you. He said, your Father in heaven sees it and will reward thee openly. You do it in secret, he's going to bless you openly. That's how you get blessings, brothers and sisters. That's how you do it. That's the best way to do it. I'm telling you, I've done it. It feels so good when you just do it on the side. You do it on the DL, as we say, the down low. You do it on the DL. Nobody know you didn't put the groceries there. You just put the groceries there. Nobody know, you gave the money order. You just gave the money order. You don't give them a money order because that way they don't even know where it came from. You just give them the money. Okay? You understand? You see what I'm saying? You do it on the DL. Sister, I'm just gonna answer Brother Frank's question. It seems like he's not getting this, and I understand because he can't hear. So listen, answer this. Tell him this. Say you do it to your brothers and to your non-brothers. You take care of your brothers as well as your non-brothers. Had taught us whoever's in need is your neighbor. Isn't that what Messiah taught us? Whoever's in need is your neighbor. He said, who is neighbor to the man that got jumped? And it was the one that was in need. Is that true or not? It's the one that was in need. Because we in Babylon. See, when we in the land, this is talking about the Israelites in the land. We're not in the land. We in Babylon. So who is our neighbor? Who's in need? You got me? You feel me? All right. Okay, that's it. It's who's in need. That's what it's about. Who is in need? You see, these Christian churches take it so that, well, if you're a member of our church, we can do certain things for you. I've had them tell me that if you're not a member, you can join. If you're looking for a church, you can join. Oh, man, come on now. Like a gang. Same thing with these so-called camps. They're like gangs and clubs. That's all they are. We in Babylon, man. As long as you're not in the land, you in Babylon. And they can wipe you out in a second. Down there in Texas, they wiped them people out easily. They came through there with tanks and flamethrowers, wipe out men, women, and children, and that was their cousins. Wiped them out. Ask them Branch Davidians down there with David Koresh what happened to them. All these churches are, brothers and sisters, is just clubs. That's all they are. Clubs, societies, some of them secret, and it's ridiculous. We are not in that. We are part of a nation. And the reason we scattered is because of the sins of our fathers and our fathers' sins. And we ain't going to be scattered for the long. You understand? Praise the Most High. Let's continue. See, he's talking about them being in the land. That's why he's talking about for Hebrew be sold unto thee when you're in the land. Well, we're going to be back in the land again. There. But that's another story. Let's continue. Deuteronomy chapter 15. We stopped at verse 15. Let's go from verse 16 down to verse 19. Notice what it says. And it shall be, if he say unto thee, I will not go away from thee, because he loveth thee in thine house, because he is well with thee. Then thou shalt take an awl and thrust it through his ear unto the door, and he shall be thy servant forever. Also unto thy maidservant thou shalt also do likewise. And it shall not seem hard to thee when thou sendest him away free from thee, for he hath been worth a double hired servant to thee in serving thee 6 years. And Yahweh thy Elohim shall bless thee in all that thou doest, and all the firstling males that come out of thy herd and of thy flock thou shalt sanctify unto Yahweh thy Elohim. Thou shalt do no work with the firstling of thy flock, nor shear the firstling of thy sheep. So he's telling them the firstling goes to is the Most High. And in a minute he's going to tell you what they're going to do with it. But you know it's for the poor, the fatherless, and the widow, right? So he tells the best. When you get the best, the first fruits of your herds, your flocks, your farms. Remember, these are people that had no debt. That land with no debt. So everything was free and clear. So when they got that first fruits, the first stuff, the firstborn, that was to the poor, the fatherless, the widow, the Levite. That's what they got. They were giving that to them. There you go. Okay. See, and he said, he will bless thee. You see, brothers and sisters, let me tell you something. We're not going to get rich. If you're a servant of the Most High Yah, you're not going to get rich in Babylon. And you know what? We're fine with that. We're fine with that. But he will take care of you. And you will get a little extra money to put away. He will do that for you. He will. He's going to take care of you. You're going to get a little extra to put away against some hard times. And when you do get that little bit of extra to pour away, think about some of the poor people. I'm not saying, give up, clean out your bank account. I'm not saying, unless you are convicted to do so. But I'm saying, take a little bit of what he caused you to be able to put aside because you've been faithful to him, keeping his commandments. Somebody that needs some help and give him something. Man. That's all I'm saying. That's all. Find somebody with some children that needs some help and you might only be able to do it once. Fine. Maybe that day they would starve to death if you hadn't come by. Maybe that day something bad would happen if you hadn't come by. You understand? So, brothers and sisters, don't be afraid to help the poor. Don't be afraid. Don't listen to people that, they getting the welfare, they getting the Section 8, I work hard for my money. That is, don't listen to them. Envy thou not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways. The oppressor, and choose none of his ways. We following the Most High Yah. And he said, what did he say? We just read it. He said, Yahweh thy Elohim shall bless thee in all that thou doest. He was going to bless you. So if he gives you extra, you get this larger than you thought refund from the government, right? And you finish paying all your bills that are behind, right? And you got a little bit extra, 100 or 100, whatever you can, 50 even, do something. You understand what I'm saying? That's what we're talking about. Praise the Most High Yah. That's what we're talking about. Put it in somebody's hand, do something, man. Right? That's all we saying. That's all. So, okay. Praise the Most High Yah. Praise the Most High Yah. Okay. Let's continue. I'm going to read from verse 19 again down to verse 23, just because it starts a little thought here, and I want to just finish with this. From verse 19 to verse 23, notice what it says. All the firstling males that come of the herd and of the flock, thou shalt sanctify unto Yahweh thy Elohim. Thou shalt do no work with the firstling of thy bullock, nor shear the firstling of thy sheep. Notice what he said. Thou shalt eat it before Yahweh thy Elohim year by year in the place which Yahweh shall choose, thou and thy household. And if there be any blemish therein, as if it be lame or blind, or have any ill blemish, thou shalt not sacrifice it unto Yahweh thy Elohim. Thou shalt eat it within thy gates. The clean person shall eat it alike, as the roebuck and as the hart. Only thou shalt not eat the blood thereof. Thou shalt pour it upon the ground as water. He continues to admonish us, do not eat blood. Okay, don't eat the blood of the animal. Why did he say that? Because the life of the flesh is in the blood. He's saying don't eat the life with the flesh. This is where them idiot Jehovah Witnesses, cause people to die. They're going to suffer. They're going to get what they got coming too. Because they let people die for lack of a blood transfusion, talking about they don't eat blood. But let me ask you a very simple question. When you're giving a blood transfusion, are you taking somebody's life or are you trying to give life? Testing 1, 2, 3. When you give somebody blood, are you trying to take life or are you trying to give life? When you give somebody blood, you're trying to save their life. The ordinance against eating blood came because it says, do not eat the life of the flesh. Like, in other words, the animal's life is in the blood. You don't eat the flesh with their blood. You're eating the life. Don't do that. He said, don't do that. You follow me? So you're killing the animal to eat it, but he said, don't eat its life. Don't eat its blood with the flesh. All right? To save life, that's a different thing. Right. Don't eat rare steaks or, you see, you cut open a piece of chicken and you see the blood in it. Don't eat it, man. Don't eat it. Make sure you get that blood out of it. Make sure you boil it out. Like a hamburger, you can't even get the blood out of it. We've been through this, right? Because a hamburger is made of chopped meat. Whenever you see a ground meat, all they did is ground up the blood and the guts of an animal, and they can call it 100% beef if they want to. They can ground up the blood and guts of an animal, and they sell it. That's all they do. They need to make it look palatable for you. That's all they do. Grind up blood and guts. And you cannot get the blood out of a hamburger. You cannot, because it's all ground up blood and guts. All you're doing is cooking blood. Of course, that's what they want. They want to kill us off. But, again, right, okay, that's not new, right? That happened in Egypt too. They tried to kill us there too. And know what happened? They said the people began to multiply greatly. They done killed off the crack epidemic alone killed off a generation of black men. The crack epidemic did it. That was the 80s. And then the heroin epidemic of the 60s did the same thing. And then in the 90s, they came up with this get tough on crime bill, and they put hundreds of thousands of brothers in jail. Couldn't have no children, couldn't do nothing, die in jail. They've been trying to do it, but it didn't stop. Still 40 million of us strong. 40 million strong in the United States. Still. So they can't stop it. They stopped Detroit from getting clean water for years. For years. Still can't stop it. Still can't stop it. Because you know why? It's not about us. It's about the Most High. He's preserving us for a reason. Preserving us for a reason. There you go. There you go. See? So brothers and sisters, yeah. Forget that pepperoni, man. Forget the pepperoni. Get the pizza without the pepperoni. No pepperoni, man. Leave that alone. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. Leave the pepperoni alone. Yeah, y'all got it. Do the cheese. You can do all kinds. You can do cheese. I leave the meatballs alone too, because meatballs got that blood in it too. So you could do cheese. You could do all kind of vegetables on it, whatever you want. I like pineapple and peppers on mine, but whatever you want, man. There's lots of stuff to eat now. There's lots of stuff to eat. And you could, there's lots of stuff to eat. You ain't got to eat blood. You ain't got to eat blood. Really, you don't. Lots of stuff to eat. And I'm saying, like clean fish, you can eat clean fish because they take all the guts out of the fish before they sell it. Clean fish, ones with fins and scales. You could eat that. You can have that too. There's lots of stuff to eat, man. You ain't gonna miss if you don't eat beef or you don't eat the chicken or with the blood in it, you ain't gonna miss nothing, believe me. Except death. That's all you're gonna miss. Disease. That's what you're gonna miss. That's it. Praise the Most High. Follow the word, man. Follow the word. Follow the word, and you're gonna be good. Okay, follow the word. You're gonna be good. Follow it. Stay away from the blood. Stay away from it, and you're gonna be good to go. Okay? Praise the Most High Yah. Well, praise Yah. We're going to stop here today at chapter 15. We're going to take a little break. We'll take a little break and come back and do some more Bible. Who's playing music today? Let me stop the recording.